But I had a question for you, Flannel, and for the people out there as well. Brad Holmes, I have said that there was no bigger Lions detractor than me throughout the years because of the track record, because of the resume of what happened. The only time you had a successful draft was when you had no-brainers like Stafford or Calvin or Sue and stuff like that. There was never any depth to Lions draft classes, ever, which congruently is why they sucked for all that time.
Yeah.
Brad Holmes steps up on the scene, and 3 incredible drafts, the likes of which we have never seen. But, Flannel, I think the whipsaw to that is I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it's fair. But people are going to expect 5 hits in a draft. and Flannel, like, I just want to get out in front of this now because the draft is here and everyone's going to be going draft crazy very, very soon. I just want to get out in front of that because that is not realistic to expect what he's done in drafts to continue. It's not sustainable. It's not.
Well, all right. So obviously with what Brad Holmes has done, he has revamped this franchise primarily through the draft. Not only through the draft, but you look at, for example, 2021. You get Penei Sewell as your 7th overall pick, All-Pro, and then you have 4 starters picked in the 3rd round or later with Ali McNeil, Ife Melifonwu, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's an All-Pro himself, and Derek Barnes. And then you look at 2023 as out of the first 45 picks, you get 4 starters, 3 of them being legitimately great rookies, and one of them already being an NFL great in Sam Laporta, in my opinion at least, and I think in most people's opinion. That's phenomenal, and I didn't even mention 2022 highlighted by Aiden Hutchinson. That's how they've been able to go from 3-13-1 to 12-5 in the NFC Championship game in 3 years. The one thing that I will say, though, is that as great as the Lions have drafted, and they have done a phenomenal job, look at
otherworldly.
Absolutely, especially by their standards.
Something you don't see.
But by NFL standards. But I will just say this, and this is where I have to just add a little bit to the conversation. The San Francisco 49ers, since 2020, they have had quite a few great draft picks themselves. And the reason I use the 49ers is obvious because the Lions they're close. Since 2020, the 49ers have drafted Brandon Ayuk, great player. Colton McKivitz, their starting tackle. Not a great starting tackle, but the starting tackle opposite Trent Williams. Juwan Jennings, you saw him in the Super Bowl. He's a pretty reliable 3 or 4 receiver. Aaron Banks, their starting guard. Diamador Lenore, their starting corner. Talanoa Hufanga, who got hurt this year, but the previous year was an all-pro safety. Elijah Mitchell, who and by the way, they got Lenore and Hufanga in the 5th round. They got Elijah Mitchell in the 6th round. He had over 900 rushing yards in 2021 and got hurt in 2022 and was eventually replaced by Christian McCaffrey, but he's a reliable number 2 running back. Brock Purdy, of course, we can all agree that was a phenomenal pick at Mr. Irrelevant 7th round. Jair Brown in the 3rd round, who was kind of the 49ers version of Brian Branch. Your guy, Jake Moody, in the 3rd round. And then if you want to include guys like Javon Kinlaw and Drake Jackson, who Kinlaw wasn't very good until this year. He finally came on a little bit. And then Drake Jackson, who was hurt for a lot of the year. They're at the very least rotational pieces on the defensive line who can make some plays. And furthermore, I want to go to the Green Bay Packers as well. And I know some people still dismiss the Packers, but they made the playoffs. They're 2nd in the division. They're the greatest direct competitor. Since 2020, they've drafted Jordan Love, who now looks to be their franchise quarterback of the future. A.J. Dillon, who's slowing down. I don't know if he's going to do much moving forward, but he's at over 3,000 all-purpose yards since 2020 and 16 rushing touchdowns. John Runyon Jr., who's their starting guard, they got him in the 6th round. Josh Myers, their starting center, they got him in the 2nd round. Quay Walker, who led the team in tackles in both seasons, they got him in the draft. Devontae Wyatt, who's an up-and-coming, very good defensive tackle, they drafted him. Zach Tom, their starting tackle, they drafted him in the 4th round. Lucas Van Ness, 4th round. 4 sacks. They got him in the 1st. He was their 1st-round pick. And then Carl Brooks was a guy who had 4 sacks. They drafted him in the 6th round. And, oh, by the way, this is one of the most incredible things you'll hear about the Green Bay Packers. And I'm not trying to gas them up too much. I just think this is a crazy stat. All 6 of the Packers' leading receivers this year were guys that they drafted in either 2022 and 2023. And, oh, by the way, only one of them was a 1st-round pick, and that was Luke Musgrave. They got Romeo Doubs in the 4th round, Dontavian Wicks in the 5th, Jaden Reed in the 2nd, Christian Watson in the 2nd, and Tucker Kraft in the 3rd. I'm just saying that as great as the Detroit Lions have drafted, and they've drafted very, very well, they might have to continue getting some hitters, which I think we expect Brad Holmes to do because other teams that are their direct competitors are also drafting extraordinarily well
Flannel,
in some ways too.
See, like, here's the deal, too. And just starters alone for the Lions. With Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Laporta, Branch. You know, that's kind of where that stopped from last year's draft. Hutchinson, J-Mo is going to be a big part of what goes on going forward. Josh Paschal, you know, you can get in the starter. I don't know. Yeah. You know, you can go back and forth. Kirby Joseph is. Malcolm Rodriguez, very valuable special teams guy. Your spot starter when you run into some problems in the linebacking start. James Houston, not a quote-unquote starter, but a very, very highly tuned specialist.
Absolutely.
And then Penei Sewell, Aleem McNeil, Ife Melifonwu. He's probably going to be a starter next year, right?
Yep.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gold Jacket.
Yep.
Derek Barnes, he's a starter, right?
He is. Yep.
Like, so, I mean, you go back to it. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 starters in 4 years.
Yeah.
That's just not a realistic clip to expect every single year. And in the chat, too, WoodwardSports.com chat there at CatSpot, Neil just has confirmation bias. The NFC was historically weak last year. Holmes' drafts were not close to great, to which CatSpot, I would say, the NFC must have been great last year because all you did was trumpet the Cowboys and the Eagles, and they got bounced one and done.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the NFC had to have been great last year to have that kind of depth, right, Cats? That's according to you, not me. That's going by your words, not mine.
Okay.
And so, and Cats, like, I would say, no, they are great. When you pluck a couple of Gold Jackets out of drafts, which Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell certainly are trending to be, is that fair? I think that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fair.
I don't think there'd be any dissenters in that. Maybe you would be a dissenter, but you ignore reality. You don't live in the real space with the rest of us. So, again, going back to it, and I'll say this, I know it's 1 year, so you can't say that, but if you go by starts at the tight end spot, ... if you're talking Gold Jackets, somebody's off to a very, very good start, and it's just a start, but he does have it banked already. If you go through 3 drafts and you have 3 Gold Jackets, that is legendary, CatSpot. I don't care what metric you say. That is legendary.
Yeah, and if you want to say that it's too early to call Sam Laporta a Gold Jacket
100%
after his
it
rookie
is.
year,
I don't disagree with that.
It is, but
is he on pace?
He had he had maybe the greatest rookie tight end season ever, and that's pretty damn impressive.
Him and Mike Dick is the only ones you can point to. So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, and is it early? Yes, I, Neil Rule, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare that it is early to say that about Sam Laporta. However, when you start talking about seasons that no tight end ever has ever had, can we all admit that he's on that path?
Yes.
That's fair.
Yes, that's fair. My only point to bringing up some of the other teams was just that Brad Holmes, and I'm not saying he's going to do this because he's obviously an elite talent evaluator. He's not going to rest on his laurels. They still need to continue to pick great players and maybe make a move or two in free agency just because as great as the Lions drafts have been, other teams have also drafted a lot of starters and Pro Bowlers and potential All-Pro guys. And another team that I want to bring up too, just hold on a second. I know some people aren't going to like this. The Los Angeles Rams. The draft that they just had, and the reason I'm comparing the Lions to the Rams is because the Lions beat them in a home playoff game by 1 point. I think it's okay to compare these teams. Their last draft in 2023, they nabbed Steve Avila in the second round, guard from TCU. He was basically their wall-to-wall starting guard.
Yeah, but TCU, you're going to show them how the Big Ten does it.
Well,
That's fun.
That narrative's dead, though, because Michigan made up for it. But anywho, Steve Avila, he was their starting guard for the whole season for Los Angeles Rams. And then you nabbed Byron Young and Kobe Turner in the third round, who Kobe Turner was first among rookies in sacks and Byron Young was second among rookies in sacks. Does that sound familiar, by the way? Previous year being Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston. I just like to say that. And then in the fifth round, of course, we all know they nabbed Puka Nacua, which is... He set the all-time rookie receiving yards record as a fifth-round pick. I'm just saying that a lot of these teams that are in competition with the Detroit Lions in the NFC. I didn't even go to the AFC, but in the NFC, they are drafting very, very well, just like the Lions are. So it's going to take more work, although what Brad Holmes has already accomplished is the stuff of legends in some ways as well.
No, and it has. It's been incredible. It's been great, regardless of what some of the people say out there. I'm just saying, like, I feel like we're getting to the point where you expect multiple starters and a fringe goal. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that that is not a fair standard to hold because it's not common. It's not.
Well,
But you don't need starters every year in the draft.
No, and that's a flip side of the coin too with where they are as a franchise and as a roster, with where the Lions are right now. Now becomes the part where I think you've got your base of talent.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that there's a
Yeah.
good base of talent. Now you can maybe get a little more nuanced in what you're looking for, which is kind of weird to say because Brad Holmes has come out in front of the camera and said not everybody can play for the Lions.
Yeah.
He almost has a more he almost has a more refined pool of talent that he's looking at for this team to be quote unquote guys that can play for the Lions. But I think he can even chop that and refine it more to say what exactly am I looking for? What situational guy am I looking for? Yeah. Guys like the James Houston type, like the role guys that come in. They have a highly nuanced role, and that's what he can isolate and go get.
Well, it's kind of almost what we saw, and I know they're the biggest dynasty in the NFL right now. What you saw from the Kansas City Chiefs, they only drafted one starter in this year's draft, and it was Rashee Rice, who turned out to be pretty damn important. Yeah. But it was because of, obviously, they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid and all of them. But one of the reasons why the Chiefs were able to maintain this success is how well they've drafted in previous years to where all you really needed was to get that number one wide receiver in the NFL in the 2023 NFL draft, and that's what the Kansas City Chiefs did. And they relied on some of their defensively drafted players, like a L'Jarius Sneed, like a Trent McDuffie, like a George Karlaftis, like a Leo Chenal, and on offense, a guy like Creed Humphrey. They didn't need to hit another home run draft. They just needed to get maybe a starter, and that was enough. I'm not saying the Lions are on the Kansas City Chiefs level yet, but with the
they're in the ballpark.
Yeah, they're one of the I would say 4 teams moving forward who you are say are set up best for future success and next year's success. So yeah, that's why I'm putting them in the same league as like the 49ers and the Chiefs right now.